A new lawsuit claims that thousands of Uber employees had access to location information that they should not have had, and they used it to track politicians, celebrities, and even ex-girlfriends and ex-boyfriends. Joining us to talk about the serious privacy allegations against Uber is Nate Cardozo, senior staff attorney from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. Welcome back to the show, Nate.
Thanks for having me.
So what does this lawsuit allege?
So this lawsuit is an age discrimination suit alleging that Uber discriminated against a 45-year-old employee, which, of course, in Silicon Valley years is absolutely ancient. But among other things, he's accusing Uber of really atrocious data security and data privacy problems.
So this is Ward Spangenberg. He was a forensic investigator for Uber. And he was a whistleblower of sorts, really coming out and saying, like, hey, Uber employees that don't need to have access to this information have it, and they're using it, and then no one paid any attention to him?
That's right. So Uber got in trouble in 2014, which was before this particular employee started. And in 2014, Uber, it was revealed, had something called God mode, where a number of Uber employees and executives could log in at any time and see where any Uber rider was at anywhere. And it specifically tracked celebrities and VIPs and stuff like that. Uber got in a lot of trouble at the time and claimed that they had reformed and they had cleaned up their act. This investigator, who started after the God mode story broke and after Uber claimed it had cleaned up its act, exposes not just that God mode is back and maybe now called heaven mode instead of God mode, but it goes further than that. And that Uber employees did things like routinely look at their ex's travel patterns. Uber admits that at least 10 employees have been fired for doing exactly that. Which seems like there are probably systematic problems at the company, if that's true.
They paid a $20,000 fine for this in January of 2016 for the God mode issue, but it doesn't seem that seems like pocket change to them. It doesn't seem to have changed anything. I mean, we give our personal information to so many people. We trust that our passwords aren't being given away. Is it wrong? I mean, you obviously are involved in this. Is this how many companies act with our private information, and we're just drawing attention to it because Uber is a nice punching bag? Or
So, I mean, a lot of companies have access to our private information, and specifically our location, which is one of our most private data points. We all carry around tracking devices with us at all times. AT&T has access to my location. Google has access to my location. Apple probably has access to my location too. But the difference with Uber is that Uber has a track record of not treating that data with the sort of privacy and security and respect that it deserves. Just last week, Uber, or I guess it was last month, Uber removed a setting which app users had. I used to be able to set this thing so that Uber only had my location while using the app. Now my choices are always or never. And of course, to use the app, you pretty much always have to say always. And that's bad. There's no technical reason for the change that Uber just did. They made it apparently to let their systems collect more data on us. And given today's news with this lawsuit that they don't have internal controls on their employees accessing that data, now instead of employees being able to access my location while I'm taking a ride, they can access it right now while I'm talking to you, even though I don't have Uber loaded on this phone. I mean, I don't have Uber running on this phone. It's loaded.
Right. It's running. It's installed. You've already granted it that access.
Yep.
Probably the last time you updated the app, it probably forced you to have some sort of change there. And then from that point on.
And of course, I'm a security conscious user, so I have automatic updates set. So my app updated overnight, and I had no idea that the change had been made. I only saw it the next day.
That's funny that you put it that way, because it could be either way, right? Like security minded. So take the updates because the update to the app is always, in air quotes, the most secure. However, that automatically opts you into whatever they decide the next round of updates are. That could be either good or bad for the user. I mean, is this kind of indicative of, I mean, it feels like growth at all costs was called out in the article, and that kind of stuck with me. And that seems to kind of play into a recurring theme that we see with technology companies in general, which is just that their kind of attention to what differentiates their technology is way more important to them and for the company's bottom line than maybe the privacy of their users' security, even though probably public facing, they're absolutely going on record and saying we take our users' privacy very seriously. Do you think that's just, by and large, that's just kind of a trend of technology right now?
Well, it's a venture capital mantra to move fast and break things. And that's all well and good when you're talking about, breaking your laundry delivery app. But when you're talking about breaking our privacy and security, I think that move fast and break things isn't the right idea. Privacy by design sometimes, actually always, means deliberative choices so that you don't move fast and break things when people's security and privacy is on the line.
Sure.
So Uber responded. They wrote a letter to employees that was posted on Twitter and other places. It said it's absolutely untrue that all or nearly all employees had access to customer data with or without prior approval. This is more simply an honor system. We have built entire systems to implement technical and administrative controls, blah, blah, blah. And they say the access is granular. They had some access to customer data, but not all. Now, this lawsuit and the other people alleging this are former employees. So you compared it to the fact that Google always had our location, which we know, and Apple might have our location. Do you think that this is just a matter of Uber being a more toxic place to work and people, when they leave, really saying like, hey, and that this does happen at Apple and Google and other big companies?
Well, so first of all, I'd point out that it's a non-denial denial. It doesn't say, the lawsuit that came out today didn't say that all employees had access, or didn't say nearly all. It said thousands. So the statement that Uber put out today isn't really a denial of the charges made in the lawsuit. It's a denial of a straw man. And then in terms of culture, Google, until recently, until the last maybe 5 years, definitely thought of itself as a startup, and definitely thought of itself in that agile development. And it's only been in the past few years that Google has started seeing itself for what it is, which is a behemoth. Apple has seen itself as a behemoth for a decade. Uber still views itself as a move fast and break things startup. That's definitely the culture they have. My friends who have interviewed there say that it's a nights and weekends kind of place. It doesn't view itself as the big company that it is. And I don't know if there just aren't adults in the room making decisions. Sure seems like that.
Well, I mean, when you use the move fast and break things in terms of our privacy and security, but I mean, just last week when we read, there was the piece in Back Channel about how Uber sort of ran a little roughshod over the regulations, the self-driving regulations in Nevada. I mean, you're talking about like putting a self-driving 18-wheeler from Otto, the company that now Uber owns. I mean, that you're going to really break some serious things, yes, real things, right, with an self-driving 18-wheeler if they are if they're not being honest about the regulations. So what should someone do? I mean, do you think, does Lyft have these same problems? Should we, what should we do in this sense?
So I think the thing that we as Silicon Valley residents and as digital rights activists at EFF, the thing that we're doing is we're demanding that Uber change, that Uber roll back its location setting to allow users the choice that they deserve and that there's no technical reason why they shouldn't have. And we're demanding that Uber take privacy seriously and put into account auditing and actual granular limits to make sure that no one gets fired for looking up their ex's location or ride history. That shouldn't be technically possible. Here, I actually have a good example for you. I had a complaint a couple of months ago about something that happened at Facebook. And I happen to be personal friends with the chief security officer at Facebook, Alex Stamos. And so I email Alex and I'm like, hey, something weird is happening with this video. It's asking me to install Flash. You guys shouldn't be using Flash at all. And Alex is like, oh, that's totally right. There must be something wrong. Send me a link to the video. I send him a link to the video. And he's like, I can't see it because that video is not shared with me. That's the right sort of attitude for a company to have. Alex Stamos, the chief security officer at Facebook, couldn't see the video that I had on my page because it wasn't shared with him. My guess is if I did that at Uber, whoever it was that I'd be talking to at Uber would just go into my ride history, right? They need the sort of controls in place on a cultural level as well as a technical level to make sure that employees only have access to the things that they legitimately need to do their jobs. Those sorts of controls, to the best of my knowledge, are in place at Apple and at Google and certainly now at Facebook. It's time for Uber to step up.
Well, Nate, thank you so much for joining us. Nate Cardozo is a senior staff attorney at the EFF. Thanks for coming in. He's also N Cardozo on Twitter. He's a great follow. I love to read your tweets. So thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Have a good night.
You too.